but I did want to throw in a couple other things here at the end of this video. First off, I plan for this game to be finished in Q3 of 2020.
Ah, fuck. What's up? It's been a while. It's been a while since I've done a devlog. It's actually been a very long time since I've done an actual video devlog. So to save myself trouble, I got a whopping one piece of a script, one page, one entire page. Yeah, so I have a lot to cover here because my last devlog was 3 months. Three months. That's like 90. God. Alright. So, welcome to the 14th devlog of Oneiro. Honestly, at this rate, I should just call it the first episode of devlog in season 2, but that would be confusing as all hell for any newcomers, so I'm not going to do that, just to spare them the trouble. So, I have been working on Oneiro. I just haven't been making any recent devlogs, and I've actually gotten a good amount done with Oneiro, and I'm super proud of a lot of it. I just haven't really decided to make a devlog on it until now, when I can show off a whole bunch of new stuff. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. Instead of me listing bullet by bullet, I'm going to show off a video clip that I have edited to show off a bunch of new stuff. So, with that said, play the tape. Sick. Man, tea is good. Oh wait, the video's over. Right, so there was a lot of stuff to look at there in that video, and a lot of new stuff. I'm not gonna go terribly in depth with some of these aspects, with some of the additions, just because I don't want a super long video to edit. But with that said, I'm going to split this video up into different sections. I'm gonna put all the timestamps over here. I'm gonna put all the timestamps over here for the certain sections. If you wanna just pay attention to, or if you just want to learn about a certain section, maybe you don't want to learn about the generals, all that jazz, all that yada yada yada. Let's get into it. Starting off the general section, we have key bindings. And this is amazing. Key bindings were something that caused me so much trouble. So much trouble, in fact, that I had actually written a blog post on itch.io about me reaching my limits. Trying to make key bindings for the first time, it was stressful. It was, I don't think I was really going about it in the right way, and it was an awful experience. It really was, and key bindings are something that I don't blame an indie dev if they don't put them in their game, because god, that was an awful experience. But that said, I got it. I got the key bindings in, and they actually cover all the axes, like the joysticks on a controller, or even the mouse X and mouse Y. You can assign multiple actions to the same key if you really want to torture yourself. But yeah, that's some good stuff. So the next thing that you would probably notice in all of this footage is the fact that there's actually damage numbers and health bars now for each enemy. And I had added this because I wanted the player to understand how much damage they were actually doing, other than just being like, oh, this red slime can take 3 hits from a sledgehammer, but 4 hits from a spear, or something like that. So I wanted some more clarification on how much damage they were actually doing, and this actually complements the whole item increase by like 5% because you can actually see a increase in your damage whenever you get these items now. Next up is the new item notification UI, and this is a huge improvement over the previous iteration of it, which was a black rectangle and it said the name up here and then the description, and that was it. The new UI explicitly tells you not only the name and description, but also the amount that you own, and it displays it in a much more clean fashion, and it also has its own little sprite that it shows, and it's just, it looks infinitely better than the last one. So that is all for the general section, actually. So we are going on to, alright, so on to the next section, dealing with items here. So there's a lot of new items, or a good handful of new items in this coming update here. And there's also a good bit of new models for the older items, such as Fiery Essence, or the Scarf, or the Ancient Dust. There's random items that really needed a actual model instead of a question mark. So the first item I would like to mention is actually a reference to Dark Souls. And this item is called the Pocket Bonfire, which the model is pretty much my take at trying to make a 3D model of the bonfire from Dark Souls. Now, the Pocket Bonfire allows you to double tap a directional key, and then you just roll that way, which kind of lowers the camera height, which is actually kind of an important thing to mention for something later down the road. So it lowers the camera height, it kind of messes with the field of view, and then you just get a burst of speed, and then you slow down as soon as you start to stand up. Now, the next item that you may have seen in the footage was called the Sapling. Now, the Sapling is a new item that you can get as a drop from the new enemy that I'm currently just going to call Bulb because I don't have a better name for it. Now, the Sapling's ability will trigger as soon as the player gets hit, and there's a 100% chance that the player will release a Spore Cloud at his location, which will heal him a little bit and also damage enemies at the same time. And the effectiveness of the Spore Cloud, both in regards to the healing and the damage that it deals, increases with more saplings that you collect. The next new item here is called the Fish Scale, or the Snake Scale. It's either one of those. I honestly don't remember what I put into the code. It's been like a month since I've added that item. Now, the scale item is actually extremely powerful because it decreases your status infliction time, like for burn or freezing or poison. For any of those, it decreases it by 20%. And so long as you can collect 5 of them, you have immunity towards it. You have immunity to all the status effects. Now, the next item that I'd like to share is something that I actually really enjoy as an item. It's just currently called a Bag of Sand, and once you kill an enemy, whether that be a common, elite, or a boss, you get a random boost to your stat. It's not a permanent one. These boosts last for a very short time, but they're substantial. Now, the more Bag of Sands that you... more Bag of Sands. Jesus Christ. Now, the more bags of sand that you have, the more random stat boost you get. It doesn't increase the actual potency of the stat boost. It increases how many you get after killing an enemy. So this could possibly get really overpowered, but I think it was fine during a lot of the testing that I had going. I cannot keep kneeling. This is such a bad position. It's so bad for my back. I'm just going to sit on Stephen King books. Screw it. This is where my recording studio has gone to. I think it started off in a pretty good area. Like, if you go back to the first devlog, it's actually got a pretty nice setup, but, nice. The last item I had wanted to mention in this devlog is the headband. Now, the headband is something that I had mentioned in a previous devlog, but now I've added in the ability for the throwing velocity and damage boost. It transfers over to the thrown spears now. So your spear throwing will actually become stronger with the more headbands that you have, and I think that's pretty cool. That's really it. So that's all for the items, and there's also a gear that I had wanted to mention in this devlog called the Duplicator. Now, the Duplicator does exactly what it sounds like, and it allows you to get one extra of any item or gear that you currently have, excluding the extraordinary rarity. And that had to be done for balancing purposes, because having 7 Shadow Essences would not be okay. I've tried it before. It doesn't work out. It's not balanced. That's about it to mention for the items and gear. So, tea time. Nice. The next section that I want to talk about is the weapons. And there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new weapons. 4 of those are 3rd tier weapons, so like how the longsword, sledgehammer, the rusted knife, and the spear were 1st tier weapons. The 3rd tier weapons can be found on the outer layer of the 2nd labyrinth. The other 2 weapons, though, are pretty interesting. The first one I would like to talk about is called the Minotaur Blade. This weapon has a special trait to it, in which you are committed to going full out with the alternative attack if you even start to charge it, like a Minotaur. The Minotaur Blade actually throws the player forward a lot further, so it's pretty fitting. The last weapon I had wanted to talk about was the unarmed attacks, which the fist attacks were actually a request really ever since the game started. I think the first person that had came up to me and asked me about the game had asked if there could be fist attacks, if you could just like punch a slime in the face or something. Now, the unarmed attacks are extremely weak and they have very short range. They're even shorter than the karambit range, and to make up for that range and the damage, they have a wide array of different alternative attacks. I guess a better way to think about it is your primary attack would actually be a light attack for the fist, and then your alternative attack button would be the heavy attack for the fist. And your heavy attack would vary depending on how many light attacks you've done in a combo. So, with all that said, that's it for the weapons section, and now for more tea for myself. God, I have an addiction, help me. Last but not least, the enemy section. Now, the enemy section, there's a good handful of enemies. Some of them are mediocre, some of them I've already covered in previous devlogs, so I'm going to skip over those ones. The first one I would like to talk about is the Forest Imp, which you saw a good bit of them in the Nature Labyrinth, because the Nature Labyrinth pretty much is just crawling with them. The Forest Imps have a cynical high-pitched laughter as they teleport behind you, and they toss a little ball at you. Now, these are slow-moving projectiles, but they also go through everything, so you can't really hide behind a wall, or if you have your back up against the wall, they'll still be able to hit you, even if they teleport behind the wall. So you're kind of screwing yourself if you fight them within an enclosed area. The other things I mentioned about the Forest Imps is that their teleportation sequence, their length of the sequence, actually takes a longer time the lower their health is. So this is to kind of really drain the player of their time that they have left to explore the labyrinth, or just to interrupt a future action, maybe a future encounter with another enemy, and then this imp just teleports behind you, you hear that laughter, and then you need to adapt to the current situation. Now, I mentioned earlier with the sapling item that there was a bulb enemy, and the closest thing I can relate the bulb enemy to is Plantera from Terraria. It was definitely an inspiration, I can say that much. Now, the bulb enemy will wait until the player is within range, and then it'll do like a little shaky shake animation, if that's a term. It's a phrase now. They'll do a little shaky shake animation, and then they'll toss out 3 homing spheres, or homing projectiles, homing spiky balls, whatever the hell you want to call them. Very unique projectile with all the different projectiles in the game right now. This is super unique, and it's super difficult to dodge. The Pocket Bonfire really lets you trick up that homing system. The next enemy I want to mention is the Minotaur, and this Minotaur actually replaces the core of the labyrinth from the first labyrinth. You fight him in an enclosed room with indestructible walls, and once you walk into his room, then the gate shuts behind you and he's aware of your presence, and you're just supposed to fight him then, and if you can't beat him, then well, screw it, you're kinda dead. This Minotaur was actually a lot of fun to model, and he got me back into the groove of game development after a really long drought. So this was actually like the first post on social media. It got me back into it, so I'm super happy about that. The Minotaur isn't completely finished as of the time of recording this video, and I kind of want him to be able to do some other attack other than just running at you and jumping in the air, slamming his hands down to the ground and causing a shockwave. But for the most part, he is finished, and he drops the Minotaur blade, and he's also going to drop an item called the Minotaur hoof. I don't really know exactly what I want the item to do though, so if you guys have any ideas after watching that fight in the footage, feel free to share them. I am all ears for it. Now, the last enemy I had wanted to mention, and the last thing I'm going to mention about this update, is the Siren. The last I showed about the Siren boss, the boss didn't really look in that great of a condition. The boss would sit on a rock, and she would sometimes send out a thundercloud, sometimes send out some geysers, and overall, the battle just wasn't intense. It really didn't feel like a boss at all. So, I've changed up the arena, I've changed up the mechanics of the boss. Now, the water level will actually rise as the fight continues. As the Siren's health gets lower, she'll actually start to dive into the water, so she'll avoid all your attacks at that point. And then she'll be able to just cause a giant downpour. So as the battle progresses, she can dive into the water and she'll pop up at another rock. And as the water level rises, I've actually made it possible for the player to go underwater, and you can hear the audio get kind of muffled, and the screen will be much more bluer. And the more important thing to mention about it is that when you're underwater, your jumping velocity is decreased drastically. And also, if you're just in water in general, your jumping velocity is also decreased drastically. So this is where a lot of magical lamps could come in handy, and this is also where grapple hooks could come in really, really handy here for this boss. Imagine if you were at the previous rock that the Siren was at, and she had dove into the water, appeared at another rock, and then she threw up a thundercloud. If a thundercloud is above you and you start to hear the rumble, player's instinct should be that they need to get the hell out of the water because they're going to get shocked, they're going to get paralyzed. But yeah, so they're going to get hurt if they are in the water at that time. So they can either try to jump their way out of it, they can grapple hook out of the water, just to get out of the water by the time thunder actually strikes. And also, in addition to all of this, I've made it so that the geysers can't actually hit you through the land, which was a bug that kinda didn't make any sense at all. So, I think that's everything important to mention about the Siren. Siren is considered the final boss of the game as of this update, and I think that's everything. This recording has been going on for 47 minutes. In reality, I'll probably have like 20 minutes of a video. So, the update isn't out as soon as I put this video out. I'm still going to do a few more tweaks. I will be updating the link in the description though. If any of this interested you, you can check out some of the links, you can check out the Discord server, check out my Twitter, and I think that's everything I wanted to say. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you have a great day.